Good evening and welcome to Anime-Zing Radio here on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. We have an awesome show lined up for you tonight. First, of course, we have to introduce our amazing co-hosts, Miss Angela Rose.
Hello.
And our good friend, Darren Starling.
Hi.
Just a quick little hi. I'm your host, Doug Ingler. I thank everybody for tuning in tonight. We're going to have a lot of fun. Of course, we want to throw a big shout out to our sponsors, Home Circle Media, for the latest and greatest in anime gear. Everything from pens, pencil, stationery, and officially licensed art books. Be sure to check out homecirclemedia.com today or look for them at an upcoming convention near you. We're also brought to you by Casey Fox. For all of your artwork, commission, cosplay needs, be sure to check out Casey Fox. That's KAYCIFOXX on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Again, thank you to everybody who's tuning in tonight. We've got an awesome guest. We have the wonderful Natalie from the Storyteller Squad is joining us tonight. Hello, Natalie. Thank you so much for taking time out to hang out with us.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me on the show. I'm excited to have a chance to talk about the podcast, and we'll tell some stories together.
Sounds good. And for our new listeners out there, people who aren't familiar with you or the Storyteller Squad, tell everybody a little bit more about yourself.
So, the Storyteller Squad is an actual play podcast series where my friends and I play a tabletop RPG. We use the Monster of the Week game system, which was written and based around shows like Buffy, Supernatural, Hellboy, Constantine, Shadowhunters, basically all modern urban fantasy settings. This game is designed to help you implement that sort of serialized one monster, one mystery, one adventure, and in theory, one session, although that's not something we stick to. But that's the base game. And so our story follows a group of supernatural investigators, monster hunters, and a couple supernatural beings themselves as they adventure through the world and the plot that unfolds thanks to their choices and decisions. So I play the Keeper, and I play Aiden Brightwood, who's one of the protagonists in the series. We start with 6 players. We have to lose someone a little bit in. They got busy with life, but the rest of us have been going strong for 45 episodes now. And yeah, we're available wherever you listen to podcasts. So Apple, Google, Spotify, Amazon. There's lots of little small podcast apps that apparently people listen to us on. I was just looking at our analytics recently. And there are, platforms that I don't even think of when I think podcasting, but they're out there. And they maybe come with people's phones preloaded or something. But yeah, anywhere there's a podcast app, you can probably find us there.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
That actually is one thing I was very surprised to learn. I went looking for a good podcast app that wasn't Spotify when I swapped back to Android.
Mm-hmm.
And I was surprised by how many small podcast apps there are and what you can find on them.
Yeah.
And what gave you the idea to create this show?
So, oh boy. I am a big fan of TTRPG streams and actual play series. Things like Critical Role, Dimension 20, The Adventure Zone. Not another D&D podcast. Just sort of an offshoot of the D20 crew. Yeah, I've always enjoyed those types of stories, but also just that form of content because it's humor, it's drama, it's adventure. And I have a pretty vivid imagination, so I never have any trouble sort of immersing and imagining the story as the people are playing it out and performing it. So been a fan of those for a long, long time. And then it was a time period where we all had to sit at home and twiddle our thumbs or play Animal Crossing. And my friend Kyle asked me if I wanted to play in a one-shot of Monster of the Week. And I said, oh, I've heard of that game. I've always wanted to try it. Sure. We played the one-shot, and I was instantly in love with the style of story and the style of gameplay it promoted. And it harkened back to a college project of mine where I was not quite allowed to write a story and illustrate it. Art school can be very weird and constrictive, but I had all these ideas for a urban fantasy story, and I thought, I bet I could turn that into the plot for a game. And hey, what else am I going to do but start a podcast and try to learn how to do that? And so I messaged a bunch of friends. I picked people who I knew liked role playing, who I knew were good role players, and who I thought would be fun and have good chemistry together. And we started playing. We recorded all the sessions right away. Our earlier audio definitely shows our learning curve, but we do learn and improve as we go. And yeah, so that was the origins. Was a one shot and a lot of time on my hands to be at home and work on something, because everything changed when 2020 rolled around.
Yeah, definitely a lot of things happened with 2020, and I laughed when you said Animal Crossing because I think I put over 400 hours into that when it first dropped.
I haven't looked at the time counter. I'm sure I've exceeded the max.
Because I know it was over 400 hours before I reset the island, and I've reset the island like 4 times. And of course, my cat had to come and make her weekly appearance.
I have to say, you got them both right now.
Yeah, Ainz is in the background, and Haru had to come looking for attention.
Mm-hmm.
And you are like purring up a storm, Haru. You're never this lovey. What do you want?
Food.
Here, why don't you go in your bed over there? This is the fun of Anime-Zing radio. Anything can happen, and usually does.
Yep.
I put her down, and she wants more attention. You know, you're almost as bad as your sister before you. She was a real attention whore, but getting back on topic, I'm very new to the RPG world. In fact, Angela's been trying to get me involved in it a little bit more. I've had interest in it, but never really had the time to do much with it.
Mm-hmm.
But we do have a playthrough that's going to be coming up on the 24th with our friend Jay Morris and a game he created, which I am happy to say I found my dice finally.
Yay.
So I have like
Yeah.
5 bags of dice here. I don't know exactly what I'm going to need for that yet, but
Mm-hmm.
I think he said it was what, a D10 system?
I don't remember. I have the PDF he sent me. But yes, this has been an ongoing thing, and I finally another friend of mine, Natalie, had a copy of Monster of the Week that is currently sitting on my coffee table that I started flipping through before I left for DC.
Really?
Because he was like, I want to play it, but I have no one to play with. And having blindly GM'd at cons, my theory is, well, if I read the book, I can probably run a session.
Mm-hmm.
And it might
Yeah.
be stupid, but it'll at least be entertaining.
Well, the book itself is very easily read. I mean, it's not like it's like itty bitty text and super thick. But the thing I like about the book is that it really walks you through the process of how to prep sessions. The actual process of which is very simple once you get accustomed to the way they're laid out and the way the game wants you to introduce challenges for your players. There's a very interesting feature, philosophy. Anyway, it's part of the game that there is a countdown that the game runner keeps track of, and you are meant to, when you prepare your session, just write down at these different intervals something bad that will happen unless it is stopped by your heroes. And so the very last one being like the worst case scenario if the hunters were to do nothing at all about any of the problems they're facing. So
Oh, God.
yeah. And so But that's great because then you say, well, I know the exact worst thing that could happen, and I know that my villains want to get there. So there you go. Your villain motivation's clear and done and taken care of. And then it also helps you with writing the NPCs and giving them a purpose and a reason to be in the story, right? And they give them names and everything. There's like the bystander, the busybody, the like I forget what the law enforcement one is called, but like the civil servant or something like that. And each of those types of NPCs are meant to fulfill a certain archetype in the story, because that's how the game plays. It plays on using archetypes from shows that, like I talked about before, to lean into that and to just enjoy that either very campy or very 90s fiction aspect, whatever your group wants the tone of your story to be. The point is to really embrace that fully and then get to act it out and experience it as friends.
It sounds interesting, and like I said, I don't know a whole lot about the RPG world. I've seen other broadcasters, podcasters that have done shows, including like Victory Condition Gaming has done some live streams on Wednesdays from time to time, where they'll have a game that they do. I missed Angela's makeshift one at Anime Boston because of doing press stuff and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm looking forward to 2 weeks. Yeah, 2 weeks.
Something like that. But no. If anything, check out the D&D one Natalie and I are in together. That's just quality entertainment.
I was gonna say that's how we know each other is from gaming.
Yep. And when I say this D&D campaign is basically an amalgamation of probably a half dozen different animes at any given session.
Yeah, it's good times.
I can only imagine.
Talk about leaning into tropes. That's like our goals now. Every game is to figure out what joke we can make,
or which one of us is going to be the first one to do it.
Yeah.
Which one's going to be? So, how many of you have delved into the isekai tropes?
I was about to say I don't think we have, but I think we're finally getting there.
Yeah, we might be. We tend to hit more of like shonen and slice of life and like oddly specific anime that I think are funny, because my character is the most like protagonisty, I guess, of the anime vibes on the show. She's got to be the best and also help everyone and also look cool doing it.
Whereas my character is one part Avatar: The Last Airbender, one part Captain Jack Sparrow.
Oh, good God. What do you think, Darren? Is he dead?
We might have lost Darren.
We may have.
He was here to say hi, and that's it.
That's the running gag with him, because he works 2 jobs, and he usually falls asleep during the show.
And then last week, I was the one ready to fall asleep, just because life, the universe, everything, and he was the one that was fucking awake.
Yeah.
Story of my life.
He's still there. We haven't lost him yet. I know, Darren, you don't know. You're like me. You are unfamiliar with the RPG world.
I have limited experience, but yeah, you're correct.
But no, there's definitely a huge overlap between the communities for tabletop RPGs and anime fans.
Yeah, it was interesting in Anime Boston this year that they actually had like a gaming section set up, which I thought was really cool.
I can tell you that the tabletop room was set up very last minute. I know the guy that did it. And I'm basically going to be, at least if not involved next year, making sure I keep tabs on it and get other people involved. Because he's stated flat out that he wants it to be bigger next year. That It really was just what he could throw together in like a week and a half.
Mm-hmm.
which is still cool that they allowed him to do that.
Yep.
You know, I've been hearing a lot of, or not me per se, but my wife has been hearing a lot of people complaining about Kineticon cutting down the size of the video gaming area, the gaming areas, stuff like that. I haven't seen that because I work 60 hours a week and haven't been on social media much.
The big shit show with Kineticon right now is, one, they took away the vaccine requirement. So a lot of people are basically at the point of, well, fuck this, I'm not going.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other thing is they're not even going to enforce the mask requirement.
Yeah.
And subsequently in my Anime Boston or Anime Convention Discord server, that's been the big point of conversation, and multiple people are just like, yeah, nah. The minute they took away the vaccine requirement, I was like, nope, I'm not comfortable going.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the exact opposite.
And that is fair. I'm just.
I know last week we touched on AX being a shit show with people getting COVID and heat exhaustion and stuff like that. So it makes me wonder what to expect from Kineticon. Hopefully it's a little bit better than that, but
Knowing this gets into some things that I don't. At the risk of starting an argument, I'm just going to leave it as I know of the people that run it, and it's probably going to be not better than AX, but a different type of trash fire.
and I'll be there to cover it live on Saturday and Sunday, including having a panel. So anybody who does decide to come to Kineticon, I am going to be doing a podcasters panel Saturday night at 8:30. So we'll see, how big the room is. I don't know how it'll compare to Anime Boston. I'm sure I'm probably not going to have a huge turnout because at the same time I have my panel, they have the, what is it? The death match. That is a huge draw at Kineticon every year. Last year was my first year attending the death match, and we were in the 21 plus. We were in the drunkard section, which was fun. It's the only time I've ever really drank at a convention. But it was a good time.
I think last time I did Kineticon was pre-pandemic, and then I haven't felt like going back because I don't know. I'm getting to the point where I don't like sweating in costumes.
Understandable.
That's going to happen a lot in July.
Yeah.
So.
July on the East Coast is just humid and
nasty, and not every venue has AC or is willing to use it.
Or there's just too many bodies and the AC can't compensate. So
yeah,
there's that too.
And for those of you tuning in, we will be doing our spinning wheel to select our winner from Rail City Fan Fest a couple weeks ago, where one lucky winner is going to be a guest co-host for our Josie McCoy show coming up at the end of July. So definitely stay tuned for that. Unfortunately, the winner that we chose last week, I could not get a hold of them. I could not read the email that they wrote down, and sadly, they are not able to join us, which, bad for them, but good for everybody else, because that means there's another chance. And we added a couple extra spots to the wheel. We added a second respin. We also, from Darren's idea, we added a Darren chooses or an Angela chooses. So it could be interesting if it lands on one of those wheels. They will get to choose who the winner is, which I think is fair because they didn't get to meet any of the contestants who were at Rail City. Definitely stay tuned to our Facebook pages and keep watching the shows, because we will have some big announcements coming up for next year. We are going to be doing something we have never done before with the show, so you definitely want to stick around and check that out, because it's something pretty big. And I'm really, really excited about it, because I'm going to be able to achieve one of my long-time dreams with the show. But
hell yeah.
But getting back to the Storyteller Squad, how did you come up with the name for the show?
Oh, trial and error. I mean, naming an actual play series is very difficult, especially just because of how many there are. So a lot of names that you would like immediately think to maybe go with have already been taken and used and branded, and all the social media for them is snapped up. Um, and Storyteller Squad was one that I enjoyed both because the alliteration, and I felt like it at least hit on uh, the thing about the game at that point, since it hadn't been published yet, that I thought was the strongest aspects of the game was the storytelling and the group of friends telling it. Right, our chemistry at the table is, I think, really strong and shows through the character interactions. And so, yeah, and then I found out like a couple months after I'd like set everything up that there's also just storytellersquad.com, like without the, and that's some sort of Christian book club. Um, whatever, they can have, they can use it too. We're not trying to hoard things or anything, but yeah, it's just funny to be like, oh, well, I did a search to make sure this wasn't taken anywhere, and it didn't pop up for some reason, but it's fine. So that's why we have the name we do. The is important. Um, but we're in such different genres, right? Like they're doing written books and we're doing media and content. So I feel like the overlap there is not too bad. So yeah, that's where the name came from. It's just tricky to find a good name that like, because also, right, there are a lot of shows, especially other shows using Monster of the Week, that like focus on Monster, or they put that in the name because they think that's the system they're going to use forever. And if they do, great. But I knew I wanted to play several different types of games on the show eventually, and highlight other, systems. So I didn't really want to focus in on like anything that would brand it Dungeons and Dragons, anything that would brand it Monster of the Week. I wanted it to be a very general thing. I didn't even really want to have like dice or RPG in it, because when I run games, I tend not to ask for a lot of rolls. I would much rather role play a situation and only use rolls when it calls for it, or when inherent to that game system it feels right to ask a player, let's decide, or let's let chance decide how this outcome is going to play out. So yeah, so that's how the naming convention came around. It was generic enough but catchy and snappy, and yeah, we've stuck with it.
That's cool, because I know, years ago when I came up with the idea of this show, one of the biggest things that I had to come up with, of course, was the name. Finding something that portrayed what we wanted to put out there for the audience, but A, hadn't already been taken. B, there wasn't a whole lot in the way of anime podcasts when I went looking that was U.S. based. And I knew that Anime-Zing, there was a store with Anime-Zing in it. There was a convention with Anime-Zing in it. So I had to figure out a way of creating it to where it was unique to the show, but didn't step on toes or copyright infringements or things of that nature.
Yep.
And that's always a tough thing to try to do. But after a lot of research, I decided on Anime-Zing, and it's stuck around for 8.5 years. It'll be 8.5 years come October.
There you go.
So and it's been a lot of fun. I'm sure as a podcaster yourself, there's a lot of work that goes in behind the scenes, a lot of technologically stuff, which I'm technologically stupid. So I'm finding something like StreamYard where I can press a couple of buttons and everything just goes from there, and let the internet do the work. And
yeah,
it's easier for me. The hard stuff for me is finding the guests and promotions and stuff like that. But How have you found the world of podcasting? Has it been something that's been entertaining for you? You've been able to open up and get outside of your comfort zone with it, or
Um, my comfort zone's pretty expansive. There's not a lot of things that like bother me in my day to day. But it definitely has been an opportunity to meet other people who share this like passion for telling stories through, different game systems, but just telling stories in general, right? That's all GMs and podcasters and actual play series want to do. They want to tell a cool story. They want to act and perform and share that with people, right? So we actually have been in a server called Cast Junkie. I'll shout them out. Cast Junkie server, where it's a community for podcasters, but also fans of the shows and those podcasters to come together and just talk and build community. And that's been really cool because it's allowed us to meet and befriend people who are telling a similar story to ours, but not quite the same, right? Because every game and story is unique, but there's enough adjacencies and similarities that we've done guest shots and had people cross over and do collaborations with people who understand the system, understand the type of storytelling that we enjoy, and want to do that together. So that's been really, really cool. And also our patrons. We when you're making a show, it's always sometimes like, who's actually listening? Like, I see the numbers and, my host has analytics that they send me and stuff, but it's like, who are the people actually consuming this story or this, interview series, whatever your show is, having actual names, if not faces, to put to people and be like, I know they really enjoy this part of the story, or I know they're on this episode and they're about to catch up to this part, all of that is really great and really rewarding and sort of makes the other things about podcasting that can be difficult and time consuming and frustrating seem a lot less problematic when you get to hit publish on an episode, or when you get to go on Discord the next day and see everyone's reactions and thoughts and theories about what's going to happen next. So yeah, all that is great, and I guess my experience so far with the podcasting community.
that's really cool. And I know getting to meet new people and talk with people like mindedness and stuff. And as you touched on the fans, when the fans interact with you, whether like here when we have the live shows, fans can talk in the chat and everything. And when you have that interaction, they're engaged and stuff. It just makes everything worth it.
Mm.
And I know that so much goes on behind the scenes that a lot of people never think about. How long was the process of choosing the people that you wanted to? I'm sure when you first had the idea of creating, the storyteller squad, that you were like, okay, I have these people who would fit together and stuff. Was it a lot of crunching in your mind of who would fit together well, or was there a lot of debates and stuff?
It was. It's honestly, I've been very lucky that the people I chose have worked out so well and become such good friends with each other, because there were pockets within the group, right? We have a fairly large cast, so there were some people that knew each other and other people that knew each other, but there wasn't total, yes, I know and I'm close with these people in the group to start. And honestly, I wasn't personally very close with any of the people I chose. But because it was sort of well, it's cool if it becomes a show and we'll see. But mostly I want to play this game and I'd like to become better friends with certain people in my life who were maybe an acquaintance at the time, or I only was able to interact with them at certain things like LARPs or conventions. And I wanted an opportunity, especially in quarantine, to speak to them and engage with them in something and build memories so that I could strengthen and build up those friendships. And so for me, that's easiest when I get to tell a story with people. It's just how I bond with people and make friends the easiest, because it's something I really love. And I think when you share something you love with other people, that like joy and enthusiasm can get very contagious, and then you get to see what they like about it, and create experiences that only you can share, and that is a quick way to like bond with people. So yeah, so picking people, I mean, it eventually boiled down to I knew the max number of people I wanted, which was 6, and I knew I needed people who were ready to commit to regularly playing. Right. The thing with tabletop games that is often joked about as like the bane of them is scheduling, because every adult's life is a crazy, hectic mess. And having time and finding people who are willing to say, I will always set aside this time to spend with these people towards this thing and this common goal, is really difficult, especially when you have games like D&D, which can sort of I don't want to knock D&D. It's a wonderful system, and it's fun to play. But a lot of times, the joy of D&D is like a tidal wave. You get super excited about character creation, and all of that excitement and energy swells, and then you're level 1, and you're fighting goblins. And all the cool things you thought about your character doing when you created them, because you look at all the options you have available and you're like, oh, when I get to this level, wow, that's going to combo so amazingly. And then, it takes you a week or two to get through the first adventure. And then someone's got to babysit that week, so you can't play. So then you have time, in between. And so really for any podcast, you have to find people willing to put in the time. But for especially TTRPGs, you need people who are going to invest in the story, invest in their character, and be willing to, see that through in the long run. And luckily I picked people who, for the most part, did want to do that. So, yeah, that's how I wound up with now some of my closest friends, because gosh, the endeavors we've gone through on this show. I'm sure you can relate.
Oh yeah, and I can honestly relate to there are times when people aren't able to make it for whatever reason. I know we had a Pokemon special where Darren is our Pokemon guy. He missed because he slept through it. We did a convention special where we're going to be talking about a bunch of different conventions, comparing anime to Comic Cons to gaming cons to sci-fi and stuff like that. And Angela was sick.
Full blown migraine. I don't think I was even functional at showtime.
And so it was like, okay, well, we make do and get through it. And I mean, I know that if I was ever sick and couldn't do the show, there probably would not be a show.
Yep.
But I have told Angela.
Or I would take it over and talk and ramble about God knows what, letting the chat dictate different things.
Which we have done before.
Can I see chat? I'm on a window, and the only chat I see is our chat. Do I have to open YouTube?
If you see, it might say private chat and then a tab that says comments.
You can click on the comments. We haven't had anybody commenting yet outside of me posting the websites up.
Gotcha.
Some weeks the chat is very active. Last week we got a bunch of spam bots from Twitch.
and it's reading comments off to the side, and you see me glance over here. It's like I'm checking the chat to see if people are commenting, and some of the stuff coming through is like, okay, it's getting pretty bad. I refrain from these types of questions because we're not going to pay any mind to them. And eventually they all left.
Yep.
Best thing you can do is just ignore them. They'll eventually give up.
That's what Darren does. He just gives up.
I've given up on staying awake.
Mm.
Darren does the dirty. He ends up surrounding himself with waifu dakimakuras and then falls asleep.
Pretty much.
He has the pillows. I have the figures.
Mm.
Which I still haven't figured out where I'm putting this one yet. And of course, Kineticon next weekend, I will probably buy another one.
Though the thing I have accumulated is mostly blankets at this point.
My
But I
go-to
have
is
none-
always. Go
But I
ahead,
have
finish.
none of them with me.
You have one of the blankets with you?
No, when it's cold.
Oh.
But I'm sitting here on the floor because because there's no chair at this power outlet.
Mm.
And
But
she is definitely the trooper while at the airport waiting to fly home on the air with us. So hats off to you, Ange. I'll take my hat off by blind people.
You can find a seat at like a Wolfgang Puck.
But no, actually I don't know if I had it set up for Vinny's last game, but I have a green screen that because I have multiple anime blankets, we've used that on top of the green screen.
Mm.
So I alternate between them. But if I did have it up for Vinny's game, it would have been Yang, almost assuredly.
Mm. My go-to at conventions lately has been prints from like the indie artists and charms and pins and that sort of thing.
Yeah, we did a thorough cleaning of the bedroom, under the bed and the closet today, and dug out a tote that is almost full of autograph prints and artwork that we've bought from artists and stuff like that we need to get frames for. Because having a wife who's an artist, you get the appreciation for the artwork and what the artists go through to produce this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And we like to support them. We've made a lot of friends from Artist Alley, and I'm big into the anime figures. And every convention, it's like, okay, I'm looking for something specific. If they have it, I'll get it. If not, then I won't buy anything.
Mm.
And I end up Rail City a couple of weeks ago, small convention up in St. Albans, Vermont. It was their first year. There was no anime figures on Saturday, none at all. Sunday, one of the guys I had been talking to decided to bring a whole different tote of stuff, which included this character, and she was face down with other anime characters on her. I saw this and was like, "Oh my god, is that Darkness from To Love Ru?" And I had picked it up. I'm like, "Yep. How much do you want for this?" They're like $25. I'm like, "I'll take it."
On that note, Doug, one of the things I did this weekend in DC, the other night we went to dinner at a Japanese food, an Asian food hall, and at the bar at the far end, they had two TVs side by side. One was playing the Nationals game, and the other was playing Demon Slayer.
I'm impressed.
It sounds like the noodle shop in Burlington, because they always have anime on in there. Every time I've walked by there, and we ate there once, they had 3 TVs, and each TV had a different anime.
But I was so entertained by the fact that it was that they were side by side like that I ended up taking a picture of it and sending it to AJ, who did not come with me on this trip, and it just, we got a laugh out of it.
That is pretty funny. Now, Natalie, you and Andrew talk about how the game has an anime feel to it. What types of animes are you into?
Oh, honestly, lately it is lightning striking pretty randomly. I tend to enjoy, like I get shonen or like Naruto, Bleach, My Hero, that kind of thing. Anything with an ensemble cast where there are powers or some sort of cool, leveling up progression throughout the series, I can always get down with that. as long as the music's good. If the music's bad, then I can't get on board. I also have really been enjoying the like variety, I guess, in recent anime, with like ideas that are kind of out there when you say them, but then they wind up being very charming and funny. I've seen the first season of the Dragon Maid anime. And I did not think I would like a show like that, but my friend was like, please check it out. It's really funny and cute. And it is. So weird concepts, I guess, is what I kind of am more likely to engage in lately, because I've seen a lot of the like tropey anime and I've seen them to death, and so they're not as interesting to me anymore, because I want fresh story ideas, or I want a spin on a familiar thing that is unique enough that it feels different. Yeah, if I like, off the top of my head, anime I've watched recently that I liked were Food Wars, Cells at Work, Haikyuu, Spy Family, and God, what was the other one? Carol and Tuesday. So like, the spread is, like I said, is wild. It's all over the place, because now I pretty much just watch things based on recommendations or a snappy trailer that catches my eye. And I'm not really, the other sad thing is I don't watch as much anime anymore because I need to watch things dubbed. I don't have time to read subtitles anymore. I need to be working on something and absorbing a show while I'm getting something else done. Even if it's just cooking or like making, laundry get done. So, yeah, now that I can't sit and just watch a subtitled show, I probably am missing a lot of like stuff that maybe I would be into, but I'm either going to have to wait or I'll miss it.
One show that my wife and I have been watching it. We've been watching it dubbed. And that's called A Couple of Cuckoos. And it started off the storyline of boy and girl switched at birth as babies to the wrong families. Their parents get together and decide to have an arranged marriage between the kids so that both kids can still be a part of both families, which I thought was an interesting idea. But you look at it, and the two of them look nothing alike, and it's like, how did this happen? And after the most recent episode that dropped in English, man, did it it was mediocre, but we kept watching it because it was kind of entertaining and trying to figure out how stupid were these nurses that switched them. And the most recent episode that dropped, which I think was 10 in English, was like, wait, this just took a turn. I love animes where you're watching it and suddenly in the blink of an eye it throws you for a loop. You're like, I never saw this coming, or it's making you think, how is this going on? And this show, it sucks that it took so long to get to the point of, okay, now I'm invested and what's going to happen. And they just announced that it's going to continue. It's going to continue on starting July 23rd. For either season 2 or season 1 part 2, or however they're going to do the continuation of it.
Yeah.
Spy Family was fantastic. In fact, that was the only show that the three of us agreed on watching, because Darren and I are isekai trash, and Angela is a complete 180 in her taste of animes.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I will also shout out Violet Evergarden as an anime that I watched, I guess, purely to cry, because I cried basically the whole time.
Was it episode 9 or 10 that really sent you into waterworks?
I don't remember. I think I cried like every episode.
But you remember the main one, right? The one with the daughter and the mother?
Potentially. Again, anime is one of those things too where it goes in and then out. For whatever reason, I remember feelings about shows and less like specific plot lines.
No, Violet Evergarden is on our list that we just haven't gotten to yet.
Mm.
It's art. That's all I gotta say.
It's really good. It's really pretty.
No, you want
yeah.
art. Blue Period is the way to go. That's another one, Doug. I didn't think I would like, but I ended up absolutely loving it because it's not my normal type.
Mm.
A really good slice of life about a guy that basically says, "Screw it, I'm going to art school."
I started watching that. That actually was really good.
Exactly.
Was that on Netflix?
I do not. I think so. I don't remember.
Then that's why I didn't finish it, because we got rid of Netflix. Because of needing to save money and getting rid of some things, Netflix was one of the things that we stopped subscribing to.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of anime that I see and I'm just like, this might be an interesting idea, but I don't need to watch, 10 hours of that idea. I could watch the trailer and be like, what an interesting concept. And that satisfies me, and I don't need to chase that thread.
And now shonen is an interesting type of anime where a shonen will hook me at first, but if it's too long, I lose interest.
Mm-hmm.
I gave up on Fairy Tail after 100-something episodes. I gave up on My Hero and partway through season 4.
Mm-hmm.
Demon Slayer, I try to give everything a 3-episode trial. I gave that one 6 and it didn't hook me.
Yeah, Demon Slayer didn't hook me either. My Hero is a guilty pleasure of mine. I will watch those good kids be heroes anytime they want to show up and do that.
But
but I agree that you're right.
Make the show.
Yeah, I agree that like a lot of shonen face the issue where they should tell a story and finish it, but they become so explosively popular and profitable that then they're forced to like go longer than they really should from like a narrative perspective and a storytelling perspective.
Like
And
One Piece.
so, well, I can't comment on One Piece. I've never seen One Piece.
I thought you were
But
going to say the
Bleach,
Fate series.
yeah, Bleach was my first love as an anime. I love the character design. I love the art style. I read the manga before I watched any of the anime. And yeah, that's a classic example of like, if a story had been allowed to finish at a certain point, it would have been incredibly like, I would have thought it was like, oh, what a great like series. I'm so happy. But it didn't, and it just kept going after that for like 2 arcs, and it was like, I don't care about these arcs. All of the emotion, all of the narrative payoff was waiting in that, whatever 3rd arc or whatever it was, and it should have been over. But you had to keep going, and so you ruined it. And I think that's like a pitfall that a lot of media falls into, where because it makes money, it's forced to go beyond its natural story life cycle, I guess.
We kind of like you kind of get that with Full Metal Alchemist. The original run basically went beyond where the manga was, and they changed it, and then eventually they did Brotherhood, which was far closer to the actual manga. But
and then
same idea.
And Rosario Vampire only got 2 seasons because they jumped all over the story. They really did not stay true to the manga of that at all, which is why they stopped after 2 seasons. Because I'm sure if they had kept with the storyline of the manga, they probably could have gotten more out of that. And we want to take a small break here to spin the wheel to see who the winner is going to be. To join us for the voice actor interview with Joseph McCoy, voice of Kenya from Genshin Impact. So we have our little wheel up here. I guess we're going to shuffle the slices around until Angela tells us to stop.
And stop.
Alrighty, so we are going to spin and see who gets the win. So this is a second chance for somebody to join in on us, and Rick is going to be joining us. And I know I have his information because he was the awesome guy that I actually bought the figure from. So congratulations, Rick! You are going to be joining us on the air here for our interview with Josie McCoy. I will shoot you out an email this week. Rick is with Nerd Urbanity, and that they sell figures and a whole bunch of stuff, not just for anime, but all cultures. Which he had a lot of retro figures, old school like Ninja Turtle figures, superheroes, stuff like that. Had a lot of really, really cool things. So congratulations, Rick, on winning, and we look forward to having you join us on the show. It'll be a lot of fun. I know Josie is looking forward to coming on. We touched base with him earlier this week just to make sure everything was still a go. And because as we know, in the world of voice acting, anything can happen. Schedules can change last minute. So we definitely are looking forward to that. We also are going to be having a guest announcement coming soon. We booked another guest in September. So keep an eye on our Facebook page for the big announcement of who's going to be joining us, another talented voice actor there. And of course, as I said before, keep an eye on our Facebook page. Keep tuning into the shows because we are working on something behind the scenes here that is going to be pretty huge for Anime-Zing Radio. It's a first that we have ever done, and it's going to be quite interesting. I'm nervous about it all, hoping that, the funds and everything will be there, but I've got a year to prepare everything, so it's going to be a lot of fun. And back onto the topic at hand, of course, we of course want to thank our guest Natalie from the Storyteller Squad for coming on and hanging out with us tonight. We're having a lot of fun learning more about Natalie, her anime interests, and of course her storytelling. And when it comes to the storytelling side of things, do you go into full-on character? Because I've seen RPGs where people they become the character. They are swinging hands. They are, they change their voice to portray the characters, and they just go 100% all in. Is that what you and your group do, or?
Yeah. Well, on my end, me personally, 100%. You run into some challenges with it being a podcast and a podcast only, that a lot of the physical acting I sometimes bring when I'm, on the Zoom call with my cast, that's just for them. That's to inform them what a character is doing or emoting, which, the way you form your face affects how your voice appears, right? And you can carry or create a lot of emotion by adjusting the way you sit, the way you hunch, if you're moving while you're talking. And so I do some character voices, or at least I do my best to do character voices. Yeah, there are certain characters that I definitely fall into a certain body language for, just because it helps me really zero in on what is that character's core traits and how can I portray them both for my players and then also the listeners in how I deliver the dialogue they need to get across for their scene. Among my players, the only person who does an accent is my good friend who plays Agent Whitaker, who is a character from Britain, and my cast member is not, so they do an accent.
I can only imagine, because some of the YouTubers I watch, especially the gamers, have a friend that they play like Minecraft and a lot of those games with, who is from the UK, and they poke fun at him with really bad British accents all the time. So I'm hoping it's not like I hear Sigils and some of them do on their channels.
I mean, Emery will say that his accent is bad. I think it is perfectly fine. And actually, we had a patron recently say that that his accent was, quote, not the worst she'd heard. So given that, my cast are not professionally trained voice actors, I think that's pretty good.
And it's got to be fun to be able to bring these characters to life, kind of in essence being a voice actor to an
Oh yeah.
audio crowd. Granted, they
Mhm.
can't see everything that's going on. It's not like you're in a studio trying to bring an anime to life. You're bringing a story to life using just your voices. So you're doing a lot of the same stuff that voice actors do for the listeners on your podcast.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, we all have voice acting experience now, because the more I learn about the audio, the more I can tell them, mic technique and mic etiquette and tips and tricks for helping their voice on recording day and to sound better or clearer. Um, you know, because we pre-record and then I edit things, if in the midst of a moment of the game someone gets really excited, they peak their mic, right? If they roll really well, I'll sometimes say, okay, great, roll that back, give that to me one more time, but don't shout so much so we can actually hear what you're saying and the audio won't distort. So that's the benefit of playing a live game, but with the intention of making it a show. You can be like, okay, if we were just playing in someone's house, I wouldn't ask you to give me that line again, but I am going to ask you now so that it's clear for the listeners when I go back to splice the tracks together.
Excuse me. And with the editing side of things, does it take you a while to edit everything and get it out there, or?
It does. I usually need 2 to 3 days, like full days of working on the show to get it ready to go. There is, I mean, depending on this like level of quality you are willing to accept for your show, that changes the amount of time the editing takes. If you're really trying to remove every hiss and click and pop and background sound so that it's just crisp, clean dialogue the whole way through, there's a lot of scrubbing that you have to do. You have to process the audio. There's different plugins that you're going to need to run in order to get yourself sounding like, I don't know, NPR, to use a very like professional example, I guess. But then, I have an editor who helps me by doing a first pass. He sends me the tracks once he's done his like rough cut, where he's removing filler words and long pauses and tangents and moments where a joke lands but doesn't get a laugh or whatever. And then I go at it, I clean the tracks, I get rid of all the background sounds. Then I do my content pass where I'm cutting segments, moving dialogue around, changing, placement in the actual session itself sometimes, and making the story as crisp and clean and snappy as I can so that it's easy to listen to. It stays engaging the entire time, and there's none of the natural lulls that you experience when you're playing a TTRPG. I mean, sometimes we take a break in the middle so people can use the restroom and get water, that sort of stuff. All that gets cut out. And once the content cut is finished, I then go back in and we'll add sound effects or musical tracks to heighten the emotion or impact of a certain scene. And that's when I really feel like I get to play in the work that is podcasting, because it feels like scoring a movie, because I can picture the story in my head like a film. I know the characters, I know the scenes that I had in mind when I was running a particular monster or danger challenge. And so when I am scoring them, it crystallizes. Everything finally comes into frame. And I get those like goosebump moments down my spine sometimes when I like find a track that works just so with a scene. And I feel really like punches up the moment so that when you're listening, you might notice there's music, but you're not noticing the emotional impact of the music. You're focusing on what's being said, what the characters are doing, but that music is there and it's affecting how you're feeling about the scene, which is just, I don't know. I think most people don't consider the score of things that they're listening to, but it is a big thing that I focus on because I know how much it plays into whether I enjoy something or not, or get excited about something. And I want to deliver that same kind of experience to the people who are kind enough to listen to my show.
And I think that's something that as broadcasters, as we are, when we were before getting into the podcasting or broadcasting side of things, I know growing up, I never once thought about who voiced certain cartoon characters, things of that nature. To me, Bugs Bunny was Bugs Bunny. I didn't think about who voiced Bugs Bunny, who brought him to life on the screen and stuff like that until I got older, until I got into anime, thanks to a friend of mine who would have Inuyasha on when we'd have poker nights at their house a couple times a week. And that was my introduction to anime. Was okay, watch Inuyasha on Adult Swim. We'd be playing poker for like 3-4 hours, and you'd start off with Cowboy Bebop, Foolie Cooley, Witch Hunter Robins, Inuyasha, and it took off from there. And then it was okay, well, who voiced these characters? And that's when I really started to learn about the world of voice acting and wanting to know more about it. Not so much that I could do it, but I was interested in the people who took the time to learn the skill to bring these people to life and then understand, much like yourself, you don't have a stage. To me, voice acting is a lot more difficult than stage acting in my mind, because you have to create everything using only your voice. And you have to make these characters come to life for the viewers and the listeners to fall in love with or hate, depending on how you want to bring that character out.
Yep.
And I've always felt like there are certain characters that everybody loves or everybody hates. And I know that there are characters out there that a good population of anime fans are like, I cannot stand this character for XYZ, which in my mind, it's like, that's the voice actor. Don't hate the voice actor because you hate the character. That just means they did an amazing job at bringing that emotion out for that character to make you feel it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one thing that we've always emphasized on the show is it's okay to love or hate a character, but don't bring those feelings out towards the person who brought them to life. Instead, be impressed that they were able to do that using just the voice, not being on stage to physically act out a scene or things like that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny seeing, listeners react to certain characters and either fall in love with them or, relish in a delightful villain, right? A villain who you can just sort of enjoy disliking because they're so awful or they do something so abhorrent that, you want to see them get their just desserts. And when they do, it's that much more satisfying. Because, I guess in our case, I'm able to infuse something into them that feels very relatable, and easily identifiable as, oh, this person is bad. There's something about them that's bad, and we don't like that. And we would like to see them get a comeuppance because that is satisfying when you're telling a story.
And I know that your mic is muted, Angela. I don't know if there's a lot of background noise right now. But when you're doing your characters and stuff, do you enjoy bringing out the good characters and the bad characters, or?
Yeah, every character is different, and some of my best characters take on a life of their own and become far more larger than life than I ever anticipated. And in one particular game, my character did something that I normally wouldn't do. And like when we, like at the end of the session, we kind of had a kind of player to player conversation about it. And like, yeah, I get why you did that, but I'm not okay. And I'm like, I'm not okay that I did that. But in character, I knew it needed to be done in that moment. And it was definitely the right thing to do, but it was not a good thing.
Yeah. That's good though, that you have that like check-in afterwards, right? It's important when you're doing these games and telling these stories with friends of yours, right? There's a lot of emotion that can get wrapped up in that experience, and when things don't go well,
Exactly.
or when characters make choices that, like, yes, the motivation's there, it makes sense for the story, but oh, it was unpleasant and we knew it was going to be bad, and now there's this tension between the characters. As
Yep.
long as you can continue to separate that and keep it all on the table and not a thing that leads into bleed or tension between your actual friends, then you're doing okay.
Yeah, no, and I have one of my best friends. I have known him for upwards of 20, almost 20 years at this point. We've been role playing together since we met in college. Have been role playing together since probably the end of 2005. And we inevitably end up building characters that just butt heads. And intermittently, there's always the conversation of, we cool, right? Person to person? Yeah, we cool. In character? From my character's point of view, you're an asshole. And then we just agree, and we just laugh, and we laugh because it happens once every 2 or 3 years. We do this, and we laugh about it. And in character, we proceed to butt heads, and the most recent instance being in the new Vampire game. He built a very male chauvinist, racist asshole of a character. And I joined the campaign at basically the chapter break because life, the universe, everything. And I built a character that basically was born in Japan, spent time in both China and the US. So basically, being a minority female, he just hated me. And player to player, we laughed about it. In character, we just hated each other by virtue of existence, and it was just a lot of fun to role play out.
That's one thing about RPGs that is something I want to learn about when I start playing, is trying to figure out how to get into character. And now when you're getting into these characters, and Natalie said that you voiced multiple different characters, creating, good and bad. Do you have to switch mindsets when you're switching from character to character, or is that something that's easy for you because you've done it for so long, or was that something you had to learn?
It's definitely something you have to learn. I think there are, some people have an easier time with it. I credit my ability to do so pretty seamlessly to the fact that when I was little, I played alone a lot, and I would just voices of characters that I would, come up with for my toys, and like stuffed animals and things to, like, again, tell stories for myself, because I would play by myself with the things that I had available. And so for me, it's very easy to switch because when I'm preparing the sessions and preparing and coming up with the characters and who they are and what motivates them, when that all solidifies and I have a general idea of, I know how this character would react in any situation because I know the core of who they are. I know the thing they care about the most, the thing they dislike the most, and the thing they want the most. And when you've got those three at least, it's very easy to react just organically. And that ties into like your skill and ability to improv and but like I said, I think that also makes itself easier the more you do it and the more you understand that as long as you react organically based on a certain set of parameters you set for yourself for the different characters, then it will seem natural. Every character you play, whether you're a player, whether you're a GM, is filtered through the fact that it's still you playing it. I forget who exactly I heard this metaphor from the first time, but it's like panes of glass, right? When I am playing one of the villains, it's this pane of glass, and everything I say is me voicing what I think a villain with these ideals and these, wrong or warped beliefs would say and do. And then when I switch over to a friendly NPC, it's a new pane of glass. It's a different filter on my base self. And life experiences, right? A lot of times characters you're playing are based on people you know, people you meet, celebrities, other characters in media, right? Nothing is original. You're riffing on everything you've internalized and consumed by hearing stories throughout your life. So yeah, I will say, as the GM, and this might be a unique thing to people running games, is I never quite get to shut off Natalie, right? If we talk about it as switches, Natalie switch, the master switch, is always on. So when I'm acting as a character, I maybe have brief seconds where I react as what they would say, but then I immediately have to pull back and remove that pain, and now I'm the game runner again, and I'm responding to what my player did in response to that character's words or actions. Which is very different, right, from the experience that a player has, where the player, if they're in a group and they're having fun and the game is being run well, they should feel like they get to react and remain in that mindset with the pain of their character in front of them the entire time, or at least for a majority of the session. If you spend a lot of a session out of character, for some people that diminishes the enjoyment they get out of it, because they don't get to escape. They don't get to immerse and embody a different self or a different, type of experience when they're constantly being distracted by someone eating chips, or, asking them, when are you going to do the dishes? When's the game done? That kind of thing. So yeah, I think there's the voice that goes into it, like we talked about before, the physicality of it, but the mindset is the biggest thing, because that informs everything else. You can have a villain who might talk very sweetly in one moment, but then go very harsh with their voice in another, either to lure someone into a false sense of security, or to create a dichotomy of personality, because you want to show that they are, that they bounce between extremes, right? Or that they have conflicting personality traits. You might have a villain who's very polite, but does very sinister things with a smile on their face the whole time. Or you might have a character who is, very well-meaning, but they perform actions all the time that are, inherently wrong or unhelpful. And so, yeah, it comes from a place, I guess, of knowing how to create the pains, and the more combinations of those you can do, the more you can filter out yourself and trick people into saying, that's that character and that's that character, even though I'm playing both of them.
And that's got to be the interesting tightrope you have to walk to try to bring 2, 3, 4 characters to life in a session that are very different mentally and personality wise. And
yeah,
I don't know if I could do that. So definitely kudos to you for being able to do that, have the mind frame. I mean, I used to enjoy, when I was working at a garage back in Massachusetts, they were always wary of the alignment techs, because they said they were all crazy. They made me an alignment tech, and I would start talking to myself and answering in a different voice just for fun and to freak them out. So I can see about, playing, and I spend a lot of time by myself, playing alone, things of that nature. So I can understand that side of things. And when you talk about, having different stuffed animals or figures or characters or whatever, having interactions and stuff, I can definitely see where that would be a big aid to it. And I think another thing that would help too is not to be afraid to make yourself look like an idiot.
Oh yeah, you got to lean into it. If you have to do a silly voice for a character, you got to do it, and you can't half commit, or it won't sound good.
Yep. Can confirm.
And you were talking about how you've relied on a lot of external sources for creating these characters, watching people around you, actors, things of that nature. Have you pulled stuff out of anime and tried to create characters based off of maybe anime characters you've seen or different shows? Because I know there's a lot of RPG or game-based animes that are out there nowadays. So it could be easy to try to figure out, okay, well, this is how this character is. How could I bring that personality onto the character sheet? Is that something you've looked into with any of your games, or?
I'm going to try and like condense the core of that question down to how does anime influence my show? The answer is everyone in the show has watched or, enjoyed an anime of some kind. And this, like, I think oh man, it's such a big question. It's like,
it is, and at the same time, it's not, because one of the things that actually you were part of that one shot where I built Maple and then used the image as the token.
right, yeah, like there's sometimes where you're like, I just want to play this character from a show I like, and I'm going to use the rules of whatever system I'm using to get as close to their abilities as I can, because that's a fun like challenge as someone who enjoys RPGs.
Yep.
But as far as like influence, like sometimes it's an aesthetic that you really fall in love with, and it informs how you imagine scenes taking place, right? Watching certain animation, that becomes a part of how you imagine things that aren't quite real, because animation oftentimes will depict scenes that are impossible, or you'd never be able to get that close to observe them. But through the art of the animators, you get to like think of these things, and then that sort of fits into your brain as like, well, that's what a fireball shooting out of someone's hand looks like, or that's what the final punch of defeating a villain should look like. And so that can help inform not only your personal interpretation of it, but when I describe things, I think I tend to give them a little bit of like anime flair, I guess. It's I hate to make like sweeping generalizations, right? But we say like, what is it that makes anime like, right? When something is either poking fun of or paying an homage to anime, what are the things about it that make you go, oh, they're doing an anime joke, or they're doing an anime episode because this is included in it. And a lot of that just has to do with the history of that art form and how it has evolved over time and changed. And like I said, you don't want to make generalizations, but there are a lot of anime, and a lot of popular anime, I would clarify, that are loud and flashy, and they have screaming a lot of the time, and they name the moves, and there's long power-up sequences and moments that time stands still just so you can have a more interesting aesthetic effect happen to your hero, and and on and on and on. So to try and say like, what specific anime influences are you pulling from? I don't know, probably all of them a little bit here and there, and then mix that with all the sci-fi I've watched and all the fantasy I've watched, and it just becomes a sort of puzzle piece thing where you're making the puzzle. It doesn't matter what pieces you get, they'll all fit together technically. You just have to make sure they fit together in a way that feels interesting and fun. And yeah, I mean, the most anime thing I do is how I add the musical tracks. I think I have a very anime style when it comes to adding music to my episodes, because I want every fight to feel epic and important, and I want every sad moment to have weight and drama and emotion behind it. And those things happen in other media, but I feel like in anime it's often pronounced because, again, everything is exaggerated, everything is a little heightened because it's a cartoon. That's the point. You can exaggerate and push things beyond what are what you're able to do in real life, because the medium of animation lets you make those pushes, lets you exaggerate those things in a way that makes the emotion greater. And that's really I think the biggest advantage with animation is that it pushes emotion. If I was to like, money's no object, what would you do? I would make an animated series. I wouldn't cast it with real actors. I wouldn't try and do the Marvel thing with like expensive CGI. I would want to animate the show. Just because it's, I don't know. There's a beautiful thing to animation, and it hits a joy and an aesthetic that I take a lot of enjoyment from. So yeah. What were we talking about? I kind of lost the thread there.
That's okay. That's what we do here. We've gone off on I suffer from shiny object syndrome really, really bad, and I can get way off in left field, and eventually it'll come back on. And talking about things that only happen in anime in my house, we call it anime logic.
Yep.
Because it's like this wouldn't normally happen, but hey, it's an anime, so anime logic.
Yeah.
And then there are tropes in anime which you think are just anime tropes until you see it in real life. Like, I always thought that the Oriental person running with bread in their mouth was just an anime trope until I actually saw somebody from a Chinese restaurant running to their car with a piece of bread hanging out of their mouth. And I'm like, I thought that was just an anime thing, but no, this just literally happened. I watched her run from the employee entrance door of this restaurant to her car with bread hanging out of her mouth. It doesn't get any more anime than that. And that's one of those, like, you just say that and everybody knows exactly what you're talking about. And you were mentioned earlier, one of the shows that you would watch that you didn't think you would like, but actually enjoyed was Kobayashi's Dragon Maid.
Yes.
Have you been able to see season 2 of that yet, or no?
I have not, but I am aware of the story about them and how their studio burned down and then was rebuilt, and just this horribly tragic event, but that then they came back strong and were like, we are not going to go easy. We are going to hit the ground running. And I think that's great.
I will say that Dragon Maid season 2 episode 1 had an epic fight scene in it that to me just was like a statement. It was more, the fight scene I think was more of a statement for the studio saying, we may have been knocked down, but we're not out. We are here and still fighting to produce quality shows, because it was huge when they brought in a new dragon named Lulu to fight Toru, and their fight scene was just really, in my mind as an anime fan, a fan of the series, I was like, that was a statement show to come back. If they didn't include this in it, I don't think the studio would have had as much of an impact coming back as it did. And Lulu was a fun addition to the cast. We've been lucky enough to have the English voice actor Christy Rothrock of Lulu on the show a few times, so and really enjoyed her work as Lulu. She brings that. She had some fun to the series, including turning Kobayashi into a guy for an episode. So that's not much. That's really not much of a spoiler, but if you do watch season 2, you'll get a kick out of that. Especially knowing how Toru is towards Kobayashi. Just imagine.
Right.
And because, like I said, I like a lot of different style shows, and I've found that I've enjoyed shows that are slice of life, things that I probably wouldn't normally be into. Shows like New Game, where they go into a video game studio and show you how they create the characters, and give you a behind the scenes of how they produce a video game. And the game I compare the one that they're working on the most to is the Final Fantasy series, because it's the third volume in a really successful RPG world series. And it, I loved the storyline behind it. They had two seasons of it. Follows the story of a girl who graduates high school, and instead of going to college like her best friend, she got a job at a video game company that produces a game that she's loved, and somebody she's idolized became her boss. And I know, Angela, that you're at the airport. Your flight is going to be boarding probably shortly. So if you have to go, that is totally fine. I know that you did your best to join us for the show tonight as much as you could. Of course, thank you so much for coming on and having some fun with us.
Well, let's put it this way. It's been a great way to kill the time sitting here at the gate. But no, under normal circumstances, I'd have been doing this from my living room, which all of you have seen many times.
Yep.
But the bright side was I was able to get a last-minute visit in with my sister because I had time off from work, and it was significantly cheaper to fly than it would have been to drive. And I was able to get this done in such a way where I could actually be here for like all but the last 30 minutes of the show.
Which like I said, thank you for setting everything up, getting us in contact with Natalie to have her as a guest on the show. And she did a lot of the behind the scenes work to make tonight's show happen. So big thank you to you for everything.
Thank you all. And I will see you all. I will see all of you reasonably soon. In this format, anyway.
So safe travels on your way back home, and message me when you get home just so we know that you got back safe.
Will do. FYI, it'll be closer. It'll be somewhere between 11 and midnight.
That's fine. Even if I don't get the message till I wake up in the morning, at least if I know you're safe, that's good.
Sounds good. Bye.
Bye.
Later, Ange.
And we do thank Angela for setting a lot of this up. Done a lot of work behind the scenes, much like Darren does. Darren does a lot of work behind the scenes. And Darren, I know are you still with us, Darren? First, I heard some noise.
Nah, I knocked myself out.
Sometimes you do. So, knowing you have a very limited amount of experience in the RPG world, do you have any questions to help broaden your knowledge?
Not really.
So helpful.
You're welcome.
Do you have any anime related questions that you'd like to ask?
You've already covered genre or type shows.
You should ask her if she's seen your favorite show.
I wanted to, but I was trying to wait till Angela disappeared. Because I didn't want to listen to her giving us grief over several topics.
That's what she does, though.
I know. Then, on one note, are you watching anything this season?
God, no. Does Spy Family count as this season? I'm watching that. I'm caught up and watching it. So, yeah, okay. Yeah, no, I only, I think, recently became aware that anime comes out in, quote, seasons. I guess that's a normal thing that, like, all television does, but I guess I'd never thought of it and applied that to anime. Because, like, when I was getting into anime, there was such a backlog, right? It was never like, what's the newest thing coming out? It was like, you got to see all the foundational anime that everyone knows and likes first, right? So it was a lot of binging when I was in college. And then I kind of like hit a lot of the like late 90s to mid-aughts stuff up to like 2013. And then around then I just kind of stopped like watching as much anime. And would only catch one here or there. Especially with the advent of like streaming services. Most of what I've seen are things that have been ported onto like the major platforms. So yeah, no, I'm not current at all with like what the latest thing to come out is. I think there was one about a spider at some point, kind of recently, but
yeah,
I didn't watch it. I just heard about it.
So I'm a spider. So what?
Yeah.
Excellent.
That's had a lot of positive comments about it. I watched one episode and kind of was distracted by like I think at the time that came out, I think I was watching like 7 or 8 shows. So adding another one on was probably not the brightest idea at the time because I didn't have time to watch everything. And then within the past couple of months, I picked up a second job, so my time to watch anime usually comes either between 6 and 7 a.m. if I get up that early, or between whatever time I get home from job 2 and midnight. And I usually leave job 2 around 11.
Yeah, most of my content that I take in is other podcasts, either because I want to collab with them and I like knowing about the show before I reach out and like say, hey, would you like to work on a game or a one shot or something together? Or it's just podcasts that I have been following for quite a while and they continue to put out episodes. So I try to stay caught up, so I can support those creators as well. And yeah, my day job involves a lot of working with my hands, so it's nice to just have something on in the background that I can listen to, but not need to focus entirely on, but still be able to enjoy it.
And I know we're getting into, as Darren was referring to, we're getting into the summer season of anime, and there's a lot of the big shows that are coming out are sequels, seasons 2, 3, 4, many different shows. Some are big names, like Overlord season 4 is coming out. Is It Wrong to Try to Pick Up Girls in a Dungeon season 4 is coming out. That actually, both of those you could see an RPG feel to them, especially Dungeon, where it's a character has to level up and work hard and fight enemies, and there is a romance that develops in that one. And Devil is a Part-Timer season 2 is coming out. I think this week is episode 1 dropping. And just knowing a lot of the voice actors who worked on that originally, I know how excited they are that they are getting a season 2 7 years later.
Oh, wow.
And because that's what they would call like a reverse isekai. Somebody from another world comes to Japan and ends up getting a job working at like a McDonald's. So picture Satan loses his powers when he comes to Earth and ends up working at a fast food restaurant, flipping burgers and fries.
Yeah, okay.
And the hero follows him and ends up working as a telemarketer.
You almost could say that it's got some of the similar like oddities and humor as Dragon Maid, but a better storyline.
Okay, yeah. It's like slice of life with a little fantasy twist or something to it.
And it's neat to see how things progress through there. I'm really interested to see what season 2 comes out with. We actually did a special years ago on Dragon Maid where we had 4 of the voice actors from that show on at the same time, just talking about, Devil is a Part-Timer and what was it like to be these characters, including Josh Greeley, Anthony Bowling, Tia Ballard, and I think it was Felicia Angel. So it was really fun to be able to talk to all 4 of them and find out about, Amelia the hero who ends up being the telemarketer was Felicia, and Josh Greeley was Satan. Satan's right-hand man, Daciel, was voiced by Anthony, and Satan's coworker who develops a crush on him, Chiho, was voiced by Tia. So it was really interesting to hear their standpoints on the series and stuff. Knowing that you're much like me, where when you're watching anime, a lot of times you're doing other things, and it's easier to focus on the English dub as opposed to having to read subtitles, which I do both. But where we bring a lot of voice actors on the show, I have to watch it in English so I can find new voices and things like that. Are there any characters or voice actors that you've kind of grown a liking to based off of the work that you've heard them do? Or
the sad thing is I don't know any of like newer voice actors. I can sometimes recognize them when I hear them from show to show, but I used to know, like, I could list off a litany of voice actors when I was like really into anime, but now my like celebrity list in my head is mostly populated with YouTube people and people who do actual play streams. Some of which are voice actors. So, you know, Critical Role, their whole thing is that they are voice actors playing D&D.
Isn't that Matt Mercer?
Yes,
Is that
Matt
Matt Mercer's
Mercer.
one?
Yep. Laura Bailey is on Critical Role. Travis Willingham.
Yep.
I met Travis and Laura at Anime Boston in 2008, 7, maybe 2009. Because they were there as guests, mostly because of Full Metal at the time. And so it was one of the only times at Anime Boston I've ever like stood in line to like meet a celebrity. And not because like it was a bad experience, but I just kind of learned through doing it once or twice that like you lose a lot of your con to standing in line if you're going to stand in line to get autographs or to meet a celeb. So I tend not to at that particular con. The lines just get way too long. But anyway, I the funny like thing to me, the reason I tell the story is like I have their autographs somewhere on some Full Metal Alchemist DVDs, and far and away I appreciate them now more as the cast of Critical Role than anything about Full Metal, right? It was just a show I thought was pretty good, but I'm much more attached to their, you know, characters from their own content now. And if I ever get the chance to meet them again, I would love to like find that DVD and be like, look, we knew each other, you know, we met before. And you know, they're probably the reason I gave Critical Role a chance the first time, because I recognized their names and I was like, oh, I remember them from such and such. Yeah, I'll check this out. And then, you know, grew to like the rest of the cast as well. So
which is that is really cool to hear, and I know that there's a lot of voice actors that actually are into the game, into gaming. Christy Rothrock enjoys playing. Danny Chambers enjoys playing. Anthony Bowling, all of whom on the show have said that they enjoy playing RPGs and stuff. Obviously, they can't do it as much as they would like to because of jobs, family, life, universe, as Angela would say, life, universe, whatever. But it is neat to see how the overlap is there between the anime and tabletop and RPG communities. And do you go? I know you like we met at Anime Boston this year. And do you go to a lot of conventions, or do you have certain ones that you attend? Or
I wouldn't say I went to a lot of conventions. I went to maybe an average amount. I've been to quite a few of the New England cons, some of them only once, and a lot of those I don't plan to go back to. Not that there's anything wrong with them, but there's like only so much time, right, in my life these days. And if I'm going to go to a convention, I want to go to the one where I'm going to get the most, you know,
bang for your buck.
Yeah, the most amount of fun crammed into the, you know, short time that a weekend convention is. And so that usually winds up being like KatsuCon, Anime Boston, the PAX events, and maybe one or two others. I'm kind of, you know, a lot of the thing that I do at cons is hang out with friends. It's really the only thing I do other than like go shopping a little bit. And sometimes in a blue moon, there's a panel where I go, that seems interesting. I'm going to check that out. But like, I don't do the masquerade anymore. I don't go to like cosplay chess and that sort of thing. Both because, again, I don't like waiting in lines at conventions. If I'm going to pay a lot of money to be there for the weekend, I don't want to just stand in one spot for hours at a time. But also, I'm, you know, I haven't caught up with all the most popular, most recent anime, and a lot of those events are kind of just in jokes for whoever is like the most popular thing that year. So they started to lose their like charm and feeling of like involvement the less and less I watched anime in my day to day. And so now when I go to cons, I go and I sometimes I'm in cosplay, sometimes not. It depends on my mood and whether I want to put makeup on and a wig and everything that day or not. But yeah, I'm there at the cons to see the friends I've made over the past 10 years of going to these cons. And that's kind of it. It's a great gathering place and to be able to say, I'm going to get to see 50 people who I know and like in one weekend. And there's not many other kinds of events where that can be said other than like a wedding, I guess, but who wants to get married 8 times a year? So
Sure, that stuff's expensive.
Yeah, exactly. So like
depending on how you do it, I should say, because my wife's and my wedding was pretty cheap when it come down to it. But
yeah. But like
that's what happens when you get married at a con.
So cons to me, like they're just kind of an expensive way to have a lot of fun with friends that I know. And so that often means that when people are like, do you want to go to this small local con? I go, no. And I'm not saying that to say you shouldn't support small local cons. If you have the free time and the money to go and you have nothing better to do that weekend, absolutely go. See people. But my schedule is so packed lately that I've really got to like ration out the amount of time I'm able to say, I'm going to check out from life and just go hang out with people for 3 days. Yeah. It's like I guess now post pandemic, and like where I'm at in my life, I'm definitely more inclined to go to these like bigger, I don't want to call them blockbuster cons, but the more established ones that I have a lot of previous memories with, so that I know what to expect. I have traditions with friends that are now going on well over a decade where it's like, we're going to do this and we're going to do this because we do it every year. And I only ever see you once a year at this thing. So cons to me, I guess, have sort of evolved into a strange found family reunion type of experience. And yeah, compared to other family reunions I've been to, I think I'm doing okay.
And that's one thing that I've always enjoyed about the conventions is it is like a family reunion when you get to reunite with friends that you haven't seen in a long time. Whether it's like you only see certain people at Anime Boston once a year.
Right.
You may not see them again no matter how many events you attend. They may not be able to attend them because, like you said, as we get older, our schedules get more and more hectic. I consider myself very, very lucky to be able to attend the amount of shows that I do. And, I'm very grateful for, yes, I work 2 jobs and I bust my butt to make sure that bills are paid so I can go to these. And Kineticon is going to be my 7th convention. I think I'm going to reach my goal of 10 cons this year and tabling at 5, which is what I had set forth for growing this show. But in doing that, I am going to small cons. I'm going to conventions I've never been to before, or traveling to areas I've never traveled to before. This year, we've gone to Pennsylvania for the first time for a convention, and in August, we're going to be going to New Jersey for the first time.
Yeah.
Same con in both locations.
Yeah, that's another shift, I guess, that I'm like personally experiencing, where I think of cons less as a thing to go to and consume as more as like a business opportunity or a chance to promote the thing that I'm working on, and hope that the attendees will like to hear about it, right? And engage and talk about it. So yeah, I've got plans for a convention in November, December, I think, that we're going to try and maybe not table for, but run a panel for, which is not something I normally would be at all interested in doing. But I had a little experience being part of a panel at PAX East this past spring, and it was not particularly stressful or hard. I'm sure it will be if I'm the one in charge of running it, but not to the extent that I would be like, oh, I could never do it,
It is definitely a different beast because Anime Boston, I did have a panel there for the podcasting, much like I will for Kineticon.
Mm-hmm.
I'd only done the panel once before, which was 2 weeks earlier at PuchiCon in the Pocono Mountains. And it was a very small room. I had 5 people in there, including my wife and daughter, that was in that panel. And then I put a submission in for Anime Boston and got waitlisted. And then like a week before got approved and responded like, okay, I'll do it. And next thing I know, in a way, it was a blessing of being the 9 a.m. Friday morning panel. So like the first panel of the con in that room. But the room, if it was full, probably would have been 400 to 500 people.
Wow.
And I may have, I think we had like 40 or 50 people that showed up because early morning, people are still just arriving to Anime Boston, don't even have tickets yet in many cases. So I think having a smaller room, and I did my panel much like I do the show, improv, no script, don't exactly know what I'm going to talk about. I just kind of flip the switch on and just whatever happens type deal. And it actually went pretty well. Of course, I started off with my typical screw up. I called it 2020 instead of 2022.
Yep.
Which got a laugh out of the crowd. And, when, like, all my stuff is live. I don't edit things. So when I screw up, I can't just be like, I'll cut that out later. I poke fun at it and move on. Because I know nobody's perfect. And if I can laugh at myself for making a mistake, it's going to make it easier when other people are sitting there laughing because, like, no, that was stupid. I can agree with that. I can laugh at myself.
Yeah.
And so Kineticon's going to be a whole different beast because instead of 9 a.m., it's going to be 8:30 p.m. So I'm probably have a chance of having more people in the audience, depending on the size of the room and whatnot. But I'm hoping for the interaction because I really draw off of the interaction with the crowd. And unlike years past, I'm going to be there by myself. My wife and daughter are staying behind because my daughter's 4 and she's at the age now of where sitting at a table or being quiet during a panel doesn't interest her.
Yep.
So to save stress on everybody, it's like they're gonna stay behind. I'm gonna go and do the press stuff and try to have fun while working.
Yeah, that's the goal, right?
Oh yeah, and I can say that to me conventions now are a lot more work than they used to be because I am now constantly in the promoter frame of mind. I still go as a fan. I still want to go. I like getting my autographs. Kineticon last year, we got to meet Caitlin Glass for the first time and had to get autograph and things of that nature. Courtesy of Darren, I got way too many autographs. And this year, I don't think I'm probably not going to be able to go as hard on autographs like I did last year, but there's definitely a few that we want to get because as I got more into anime and learned more about voice acting, the autographs interested me. When I was younger, I met Gina Davis, a very talented actress in Hollywood, was in A League of Their Own and quite a few other movies. Cut her and her mom in line at a Stop and Shop in Wareham, Mass, because that's where she grew up, and she had gone home for Thanksgiving. And not so much cut, but like I had a candy bar and just happened to be behind him. Didn't even realize it was her until her mom's like, "Oh, you only have a candy bar." They had their whole Thanksgiving dinner, and so it's just like, "Oh, are you Gina Davis?" And she had the eye roll because she had been hounded for autographs by millions of people and stuff. I'm like, and it's at that point you're like, she's just here to have a good Thanksgiving with her family and stuff. It's like, and so I paid her a genuine compliment. I really enjoyed her work in A League of Their Own. Paid for my candy bar and I left. And then my sisters are like, "Why didn't you get her autograph?" I'm like, because she'd already been hounded, probably going into Walmart and Stop and Shop.
Yeah.
For autographs. So, like, the last thing I want to do is like irritate her when she's just trying to enjoy family time for the holidays. There's a time and a place when you want to ask for autographs.
Yeah.
At some point, we'll be big enough where people are going to be asking for ours.
I guess so. Yeah.
I
always find that like whenever there is a guest where I'm like, oh, I really like what they do, I don't tend to feel like I need to like take something away with like their signature on it, or like to like, be like, oh, please sign this thing I have that relates to the work you did. It's like I I don't know. Maybe I'm trying not to clutter my house up with things, right? Or I like less attached to like the idea of the autograph. But mostly, if I ever do feel compelled to be like, I think I'd like to meet them, that's it. I just want to go up, say hello, thank them for the thing they did that I enjoyed, and that's it. Like they're not like going to become my friend, right? They're there in a very transactional sort of position where it's like they're here to give things to fans and to give the fans a fun memory. And for me, the memory is all I need. I just want to say, hey, great job. You're doing good out there, just sort of
Oh
have
yeah.
like a human moment, I guess, as opposed to like, you know, I'm
Uh,
sure they deal with plenty of fans who are just like, they get that like speechless, like starstruck look, and sort of like, okay, well, let's pose and great to meet you. And they're just, oh, send them on
oh
their
yeah.
way. And that's it. So, yeah.
And I've also, thanks to doing this show, which, I've been blessed to have so many amazing people like yourself on and get to learn so many things that I normally would never probably even cross my mind. And with the different voice actors we've had on the show, I've grown to understand the industry a little bit more. Like before AZR, I was right there with so many people I hear ask, why are they charging for autographs? Why
Mm,
can't they just sign it for free? And then you come to find out that's where they make their income.
yeah.
They're not like a Hollywood actor who could have royalties on something that they've done. They get paid for their time in the studio, and once they're out, they're not making any money anymore unless they have another job or things of
Mm-hmm.
that nature. So I
Yeah.
think that's another reason I enjoy, like, if there's a voice actor I really enjoy their work, I want to help support them, which is, I think, one reason why I go and get the autographs, because it's like
Mm,
I'm helping support their livelihood and giving them the means to be able to produce work that I'm enjoying.
yeah.
So I kind of look at it from that standpoint as opposed to just being the fan being like, I need your autograph. It's like I'm helping to support you to continue to entertain me.
Mm. Yeah. That's a good way of looking at it.
And I've turned down free autographs multiple times, but there are some people that are like, nope, I'm not taking any money. But because they know that I don't look for free stuff. Any voice actor that we've had on the show, and we've had over 60 voice actors from anime, video games, all walks of voice acting. I've never once been like, outside of asking for show IDs, which I haven't done in a while because with a video format, it's tough to put just an audio clip up. Plus, I have, I think, 20 something I have to edit. And I also have over 300 episodes I need to edit because we only came on to YouTube last August. So,
Oh. Mm-hmm.
so 800, 8 years of shows to edit and get up is quite the undertaking.
That's a backlog for sure.
And we're almost out of time, but once again, I want to thank you so much for joining us tonight and talking about the Storyteller Squad, RPGs, anime, just kind of bullshit with us for a couple hours, just
Yeah.
having fun, getting to learn more about yourself.
This fun industry which we both partake and contribute to.
And I'm sure that we both are learning stuff from each other based on how shows are done, how and whatnot. But I definitely, before you go, want to give you a chance to promote yourself, all the websites, everywhere people can find you. We call it our shameless plugging section, and the
Okay.
floor is yours.
All right. Well, thank you. Is AZR how you like to talk about the show?
I call it AZR, Anime-Zing Radio.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, AZR, and all the Anime-Zing radio listeners. I've been Natalie. I'm the keeper and editor producer for the Storyteller Squad. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and anywhere else you listen to podcasts on your phone or computer. We would love you to check out the story. It's a modern fantasy adventure series It is a serial, so it's best to start at episode 1, but if you want to just jump in at our newer content and catch up along the way, that's fine too. We are at thestorytellersquad.com. That will take you to our website where you can also listen to episodes there. We are on Twitter most actively as far as social media accounts go, and that is at Story Squad Cast. That's also our Instagram handle. We have a Facebook page, which I post to occasionally because I am a fossil. We have a TikTok that we kind of use, which is, I think, is just the Storyteller Squad. And if you start listening and really enjoy the show, we would love if you send us a review. Those help us to reach new listeners and grow our audience. Yeah, we are on, as I mentioned, the Cast Junkie Discord server, where you can find us in our channel for the show, where we have fans discussing their favorite parts of episodes. Everything's spoiler tagged, so you don't have to worry about things getting spoiled. Everyone's pretty good about that community etiquette there. Gosh, what else can I say about the show? We have a lot of lovely art and illustration done both by myself and my co-castmate Emery, who is a brilliant illustrator and painter. And we're very fortunate to have a lot of their work depicting our various heroes and characters. Gosh, what else? I mean, everything else is like our Patreon and our private Discord and that sort of thing, but you probably need to listen to a few episodes before you'd want to contribute to anything of that sort. And yeah, this has been a pleasure, and hopefully I was able to share some little bits of nuggets of wisdom about RPGs and just storytelling in general.
And it's been very entertaining to hear, how you view the RPGs and how you get involved in it. And, because I think a lot of people get the misconception of tabletop gaming and RPGs, and just, like you said, they just think Dungeons and Dragons, and not that there's a lot of variety of different systems and types of games and things like that. If you're like me and just a general observer of it, you don't know that so much of what goes into it. But I want to learn more, which is why I really have enjoyed having you taking the time to come and join us tonight to give, myself, Darren, and listeners out there and viewers out there more of an education of some of the mind frame and some of the stuff that goes on behind the scenes to get yourself into character, and that it's okay to just be stupid and silly and have fun with it.
Yeah.
I think so many people out there have the nerves, especially like if it's the first time. Do I do a voice? Do I want to act stupid? Or, is it okay to do ABC? And, hearing other players like yourself affirm that, have fun. If that's what your character is going to do it. Get into it.
It's also like, I guess my last little bit of game runner advice, but also podcaster advice is, if you're just looking to get into TTRPGs for fun and to play at home, then don't base your assumptions about what that experience should be like on content like actual play streams and podcasts and things like that. Those are either heavily produced shows with actors or improv comedians who have years of experience doing what they do. And if they're an edited show like ours, a lot of the lulls and tangents and moments where the energy dips, that gets cut out to make it a better listening experience. And so if you go in expecting your, first gaming group to knock your socks off the way Critical Role or the Storyteller Squad or any other actual play series did, don't go into it expecting that. Just go in to try and have fun, to make some friends, and if you if you find it doesn't work, keep looking. There's always another table, there's always another game, and you should never feel like you are stuck playing bad RPGs, because oftentimes that's worse than just not playing at all.
And I know Angela has said that a lot of times, especially going to conventions where they have the one-offs, an hour or two storyline that you can play through to give new players an experience of getting into it, and veterans a place to go and have fun. But a good GM can make or break a new player's experience as well.
100%.
But on that note, once again, we want to thank everybody for tuning in tonight. We have had a wonderful time. Of course, a big thank you to Darren and Angela for joining us in the co-host seats. I know Angela had to take off because she is flying back home. Of course, a huge thank you to Natalie for coming in and hanging out with us. Like I said, it was a pleasure meeting you in person at Anime Boston and getting things set up. I hope that can become a thing for the future, that I am amongst a group that you want to hang out with in some way, shape, or form at it.
Yeah, we'll be looking for you at the next one.
We will be there. Maybe as press again. If I'm as press, I'll be running around like crazy. I laughed that you said Dragon Maid was one of the shows you watched, because I was cosplaying as Kobayashi at Anime Boston.
Yep.
I was one of like 6 Kobayashis. I'd never seen a Kobayashi cosplayer before anywhere. The year I decided to do it, there's like 6. I'm like, really? Everywhere I turn, it's like there's a Kobayashi with a Toru, and it's like, okay. my crossplay debut. But again, I thank you so much for coming on. I look forward to checking out the Storyteller Squad. Hopefully I will have more time after next weekend to actually get into listening. I do have the tabs open so I can listen and start following along and getting to learn more about your show and everything. And I'm looking forward to seeing the work that you've done.
We're good for a commute or dishes or making dinner.
Like I said before, all of the viewers out there, we will not have a live show next Sunday because I will be at Kineticon getting press coverage of the event. Keep an eye on our YouTube channel. We still have more content from Anime Boston we're posting. This past week, my wife did a lot of editing and got the press conferences up from Lauren Landa and Stephanie Young. Also, my panel, the podcasting panel I did at Anime Boston, is up on our YouTube channel as well. So be sure to check those videos out. Let us know in the comments what you think. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. It really helps us. We're getting so close to our goal of 200 subscribers. If you want to support our channel, go to patreon.com/Anime-Zing Radio. The link is right below my picture here. Anything that you want to donate to help keep the show going, help us afford the conventions and, a lot of the big things we have planned for the future, especially next year. We have something huge planned that's going to be, it's going to be huge, not just for us, but for the people that are involved as well. So definitely stay tuned for that. Until 2 weeks from now, when we have my first RPG experience on air, when we welcome Jay Moores and having the gameplay of Faye, the new RPG that he created based off of his comics. It's going to be a lot of fun. So join us for that. That's going to be a 7 p.m. start time because it's going to be a 2 to 3 hour gameplay. We want to make sure that we have enough time to get everything in, and everybody involved can still get to bed at a decent time because we all work in the morning. So definitely until then, I hope everybody has a wonderful week. Stay safe out there and have a wonderful night.